Doc Archery here. We're here to talk about jaded superheroes from our childhood.
Oh gee, are we actually doing this?
Yes. So we're having this thing where it'd be Skeletor and He-Man, maybe in the future, guzzling down some beers, reminiscing about the good old days. And we all know that, barring this possibility that Skeletor might be gay, the one person on Snake Mountain, I assure you he was probably tapping, would have been Evil-Lynn.
Just because Skeletor had a bit of an effeminate voice, I don't think we should judge him.
No, especially if it's tapping Evil-Lynn.
Definitely not.
Because I don't care how you cut it, both the movie version, the old cartoon version, and the new cartoon version, Evil-Lynn is insanely hot.
Yep.
Sorry. But we're just thinking of how it'd be interesting if you were one of the poor schmucks she may have screwed on the side because she's so used to screwing Skeletor that maybe she would just hate fuck the shit out of you and just maybe do horrible things like turn the bed into an alligator during climax.
Well, because, Skeletor is an evil sorcerer. He's pretty hard to kill, so you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Exactly. It's like, well, I always turn my boobs into scorpions halfway through.
Oh my gosh, are these things poisonous? Oh my gosh, they are!
Oh my god, they are. Where's the antidote? You gotta go crawling for it. No!
Come on, suck out the poison. Please suck out the poison.
You gotta suck something through me first. And then you have He-Man.
Skeletor just cures himself.
Now, I know there's always that unspoken sexual tension between He-Man and Teela, mainly because they got the whole weird Clark-Lois thing going with Teela's totally getting moist over He-Man, but Prince Adam's in love with Teela, and, for some reason he hasn't told her, even though she seems to be pretty trustworthy because she's Man at Arm's daughter, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the Sorcerer's daughter, but moving on.
Either way.
So, you wonder if the Sorceress is in Castle Grayskull, completely sexually repressed. I mean, apparently she had gotten it on at one point in her life to have Teela, but it doesn't seem like she's done much since. So we're just kind of wondering, He-Man screwing the Sorceress, because she could probably take it because she kind of gave him her, the power that he has.
Well, plus he's He-Man. I mean, look at him. Everyone in freaking Eternia Grayskull wants freaking He-Man.
Even some of the boys. Probably. Anyways, so we're just wondering, while he is doing his thing with the Sorceress, what if, instead of, the G-spot, it's sort of like the bird-on spot.
Oh, jeez.
So now you've got a large predatory hawk.
Oh, no!
On your junk.
It's stuck! Get off!
So, He-Man, what happened to the Sorceress? I kind of fucked her to death, Man at Arms. It was an accident. She became a bird.
The power of Grayskull isn't going to be working for a little while. Luckily, I think she's a phoenix, so she'll be back in a bit, but she might not be happy.
Depending on the writer, she's either a falcon or some sort of weird phoenix thing. I'm really hoping she comes back from this, but she'll probably be very sore
and
upset.
Yes.
And if she lays an egg, don't hatch it.
The most powerful bird in the universe.
It's like, bird.
Dun 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 dun. If it poops on your car explodes.
Or would it be some sort of amalgamation between a man bird?
No.
Not ERB. The most powerful what the fuck in the universe.
It's a bird. It's a bird guy. Oh, he's pooping. Dodge.
How does he shoot lasers out of his beak and shit at the same time?
Hey, bird.
I can just imagine Beastman going up to it. Oh, bird, I command you to. Oh my God, stop listening. It's not listening. Oh my God. What have you created?
It's launching poop at me.
It de-evolved into poop. But still.
Yes.
It would be an interesting thing seeing a humanoid bird thing hatch from an egg. A weird product of the liaison between He-Man and...
I'm pretty sure it would end up joining Skeletor's side, because it wouldn't really fit in with the good guys.
No, abomination bird. It'd be like the Eternians version of friggin' Bigfoot. Or the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
They say on one night, after too many glasses of schnapps, the Sorceress and He-Man consummated the relationship.
What? No, that would never happen. No, the Sorceress is... Oh my gosh, what's that over there? It's launching poop at us. The poop just broke down the wall. Hey, bird.
They have Skeletor going, yes. Everything went according to plan. Those were evil schnapps.
Are we going to kill him? No. Or just mess with them.
They're just gonna mess with them. Well, look after Orko. Nobody likes Orko. Not even Orko likes Orko. And what's up to friggin' Hordak in the friggin' in the She-Ra side of things? He gets this like vaguely hot kind of female Orko, who's not incompetent, has boobs. I think her name's Shadow Weaver.
Probably.
Yeah. And then there's like the walking furry fetish, which is Katra.
Well,
which is the hot chick that just goes, oh, by the way, I'm going to turn into a kitty cat.
While we're here, can we just go ahead and talk about how freaking She-Ra got the complete shaft in this whole like universe thing?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we have
Hordak is pretty much Skeletor's evil stepfather. And he was so evil, even Skeletor was like, you know what? Well, back then he was Keldar.
Yeah.
You know what? You're kind of a dick. I'm going to go conquer my own planet. Oh, that's cute.
Just what, eh? Yeah,
Just what?
We'll go ahead and let you do that.
Don't mess with the Snake Men. Oh, screw it. Mess with the Snake Men.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, Skeletor is evil. He's powerful. He's a sorcerer. Cool stuff, right? We get it. He has his minions. Hordak literally has a horde. It's in his name. And not only that, there's like other Hordaks who are in charge of like conquering planets.
He's kind of turned the Etheria planet, minus like that meadow, the one green spot where he can't figure out the people are hiding. He's turned the entire planet into pretty much a living Death Star.
And like you said, he taught Skeletor like everything he knows magic-wise. Oh, by the way, he can also like turn himself into like missiles. He can like turn his arm into a gun and freaking do all that. So I can just imagine.
He kidnapped He-Man's twin sister, and escaped beyond even the sorcerer's ability to actually find him, because he went to a whole other dimension. He can do that just by throwing portals out.
And apparently he did this on a lark.
Yes.
It's not like it was like an essential part of his plan. I guess.
He was such a cockknocker that in his escape with Princess Adora, he was the one, he marooned Skeletor into Eternia proper.
Because I'm sure Skeletor is probably planning to betray him because he's Skeletor.
Now, in the mythos of the newer cartoon, I say newer, but it was like early 2000s.
Right.
It builds up to the fact that you find out that after Keldar was horribly scarred by the acid, he actually sought Hordak's help through some sort of like seeing stone, because Hordak was still stuck in some weird dimension.
Now, if I'm remembering right, in the new thing, wasn't Keldar supposed to be the brother of He-Man's dad?
No, I think he was just a dick.
Really? Because I thought they were related, which is why they always portray Skeletor. Because Skeletor is usually portrayed kind of as a bit of a coward, but if you look at him, he's just as buff as He-Man.
Well, in the old cartoon, Skeletor was kind of a coward. He kind of had the whole Starscream thing going and Megatron thing going. But in the newer cartoon, he took on King Rendor and He-Man like one-on-one, and he wasn't afraid to do so. He was in the thick of things too. Yes, he had minions, but he also, he wasn't a pushover.
Yeah.
Because in the 80s, it was always easier to make the villain into a coward because that was less one-on-one fighting. You have to right away with censorship laws. Because if you notice in the old cartoon, He-Man never used his sword to do anything besides like cut chandelier ropes.
He'd also block and
laser beams.
Block and like ricochet him back at you, sort of.
And in the odd instance where he actually struck something with his sword, it was always a robot.
Yeah. Or
a tree that fell onto a monster.
But the other thing about Skeletor, though, is he kind of had, like, Megatronitis, where he'd have a plan that was actually going according to plan, like 2 steps away from success.
And he would always screw himself.
He would, like, mess up, and, he'd have to retreat, because as soon as something went slightly, wrong, he's like, oh no, we have to retreat, and
he would seize defeat
regroup.
He would seize defeat from the jaws of victory constantly. Or he would do something stupid, because Skeletor's minions weren't the smartest. Even the newer cartoons, they weren't as dumb, but they weren't very bright. And so it's like, how many times are you going to put Beastman in charge of something? Because Beastman's forte is he talks to animals. He's a horrible mutant Dr. Doolittle.
Yes.
So why would you put Beastman in charge of anything tactical? Just tell Beastman to get the goddamn griffins and to, rain hellfire upon the friggin' Eternian castle. Okay? Evil-Lynn is kind of... She's in it for herself. Yes, she's serving Skeletor because he's more powerful than her, but in the end, Evil-Lynn serves Evil-Lynn, so you probably shouldn't put her in charge of too much important shit too, besides just having awesome boobs.
But at least, though, Evil-Lynn was very tactical, though. If you put Evil-Lynn in charge of a plan,
I think
she can do it, but she'd probably screw you over if she thought you were going to screw
Evil-Lynn's whole thing was Skeletor amused her to where she acted like the underling, but if Skeletor actually bothered to put her in charge of something, or actually resigned control and give it to her, she probably wouldn't do that bad of a job, because it's implied later on in the newer cartoon that her dad is some like mystic guardian of some crazy artifact who's like this immortal like soldier thing, and he's not good, but he's definitely not evil, and he's very disappointed in the path his daughter's chosen. As a matter of fact, she actually betrays Skeletor at the end of the episode and takes the whatever artifact it was that Skeletor had stolen and kind of gives it back to her dad on the down low. And he's like, well, all hope isn't lost for my daughter anyway. So she's kind of in it to like amuse herself. Triclops. Triclops is a much smarter person in the new cartoon than the old cartoon, because they actually gave him a purpose with his vision, because he sends those little drones out for like recon stuff. Trapjaw, also much more badass in the newer cartoon than the old cartoon, because he actually looks more like a fucked up Frankenstein with like, you know, cyberpunk tendencies.
Right.
You know, then you have Merman, who's pretty much the bumbling underwater version of the underwater, like, you know,
Beastman.
Well, not just Beastman. He's sort of like the bastard child between Aquaman and Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, that's true.
And like apparently all these guys, they come from separate races, but you never see anyone else of their race. And it's weird because it's like Eternia is one of the few planets out there in like popular culture mythology where there's apparently several different races on the planet, because if you look at Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever, a lot of these planets have like a uni-race, not only just uni-race, but also like a uni-ecosystem.
Well, a lot of 80s cartoons were actually pretty good that way. Like Thundercats, you always had the Bears, you had the different mutants, you had freaking
the Burbles.
Apian, you had...
well, a lot of the mutants came from the mutants that were on Thundera.
Still, but they also had the different ones that were on, like, Third Earth.
Yeah, and the not the Mooninites, I forget what they're called, the Lunatics.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, the chick with the... there was 3 hot chicks in the Thundercats TV series. There was the one ice chick from the Ice Moon, who probably just think of Elsa, but probably a Nympho, and Frozen all the time. That, you know, can you say Dixicle? But still, I would try. Then there was Chitara, obviously, and then
wasn't there a blue chick later?
No, the unsung hot chick of the Thundercats franchise was when they added the 3 new ones for like more relevance, and it was Pumaira, the Puma chick, because she had like a rock and black miniskirt. And then there was Bengali, which he was a dude, but he was like the Bengal tiger version of Tigress Tiger.
Right, I remember him. He was the white tiger.
Yes, and then there was the blind guy. He was like Jaga Light, but he was blind.
Yes.
I forget what the hell he was called.
Who knows?
Who cares?
Probably something like Jigala.
Jaguar.
I mean,
Jaga.
They weren't great with names back then.
Or was it? No, Jaga was the other guy.
Jaga was
the Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
Linkso.
Probably. I don't know.
Something stupid.
I just remember the big ones.
Yes. That's what she said.
Hey-oh.
Blue. No.
Anyways, but going back to He-Man, I could just imagine like He-Man calling good old Princess, She-Ra, Princess Adora, like, oh, Skeletor's being mean to me.
With his magic,
he has
one wand.
He's sending the minions against me, and She-Ra going like, oh, that's cute. How about we trade for a day and you deal with the freaking horde?
Yeah, your sword stabs stuff. Mine turns to rope. That's great if I want to swing across something, but when I'm trying to fight an army of robots, I want to stab them, not swing across them. And you want to talk about closet case. Your alter ego might be kind of gay looking. My Lieutenant Bo is the gayest thing ever contrived this side of gaydom. And I'm not saying gay is an insulting thing. I'm saying gay as in he's got the suave mustache, the weird pauldron but half shirt thing with bare midriff, tight pants, a cape that has no purpose, and a flying butterfly owl that gives him advice every so often. And he hangs out with all these chicks with like weird, like there's the peacock chick. He's hanging out with all these chicks, but he's not getting laid. It's just odd. It's like, even if he can't screw Adora or friggin' She-Ra, there's plenty of multicolored pussy out there, because every chick in the She-Ra universe has a different hair color with their ability.
Yeah.
And their action figures never meshed well with the He-Man action figures, because I remember when I was a kid, to get my collection complete, I needed to buy a She-Ra figure. But they were made blatantly for girls, because the material in the uniform was actual material. It was like a Barbie.
Yeah.
The hair was real and combable, And I was like, you know what, this is kind of bullcrap. I think I'm just going to be happy with just the She-Ra, and I'm not going to go looking for any of the other She-Ra figures because this is just kind of silly.
No.
And there's what, the Crystal Castle or something?
Oh, I don't know. There's so much stuff. I mostly just got the He-Man stuff.
Well, so did I, but I mean, they had the whole introduction of She-Ra was the crossover episode, which made it seem like she was going to be relevant, and it was just sort of a spin-off to a new cartoon.
Yeah.
But the cartoon was much cooler than the toys were. And I'm sorry, Hordak had some of the best look. He had the like.
I did have the Hordak toy though, because his was pretty cool.
His was cool, and he wasn't the snake that ate the snake puppet that ate things. I had that one.
Yeah.
Then there was the eyeball guy, and then there was Grizzlo or whatever. His action figure was just literally all fur. I never got Shadow Weaver. I never got the Cat Chick. But I mean, that was the same cat mold that they used for both the Cat Chick's alter ego, freaking Battle Cat, and Panther. Interesting.
I'm pretty sure the only She-Ra action figures I ever had was basically just She-Ra and Hordak, because all the other ones were just kind of.
Well, Hordak. The funny thing was, Hordak was sold as a He-Man action figure. He wasn't sold as a She-Ra action figure, which made no sense.
Well,
but
I guess that's why he was cool.
I'll deal with it. But also, remember, there was the giant robot spider. Remember the giant robot spider?
I think I had the giant robot.
I had the giant robot spider. It was awesome. The thing actually walked and everything.
Did you ever get that weird He-Man like side freaking walking tank thing?
Yes, the Dragon Walker or whatever it was. It was
like it was kind of weird, but it was cool. But
it was cool, but I mean, if you think about it,
seems
like
pretty impractical.
in the terms of logistics and actually traveling over terrain, it's probably the most inadequately designed transportation vehicle known to man.
I mean, if you have that thing, I think I would just stick with Battle Cat.
Yeah, it's like, let's ride the weird awkward dragon head thing, or my giant Bengal tiger that happens to be green with full-on battle armor.
Yes.
With my battle axe and my sword. Leave the women folks to the Dragon Walker.
Yeah.
Then there were like the weird jet skis that flew.
Yes, which apparently like Skeletor ripped off from the freaking Cobra Commander. I need these for eternity.
You can't have them. They're mine. How else am I going to bail out the last minute with my parachute?
You have a parachute?
I keep it under my mask. Well, so do I. Yeah. The 80s toys. I mean, don't get me wrong. Nowadays, action figures have a lot of cool details to them. We owe that largely in part to Todd Toys later on, McFarlane Toys, for making the really cool detailed smart action figures, which sort of did its own trend of highly detailed figures are articulated. But back in the day, the figures might not have been articulated very well, did not even look all that pretty, but they had functional things. I remember Cobra Khan, he literally filled his body cavity full of water. He put his head back on, and when he pushed down on his head, he would spray venom.
I kind of miss the 80s. I mean, like now, if you have a successful TV show, maybe you'll get a toy line.
Maybe.
Not in the 80s. No, in the 80s. All right, we have this cool idea for a toy. We need about a 3-year-long commercial to sell them. How do I know 3 years? Because a buddy of mine has almost all the DVDs for the shows I used to watch as a kid, and I did not know this, but most of them were 3 seasons long. When you're a kid and you have to go to school, spend, can't Netflix everything. 3 seasons can be 20 years for as far as you know, because you never see anything in sequence. Even if you see a rerun, by the time you see it, you don't know it's a rerun.
Some of the coolest He-Man action figures actually came about. There was a brief period of time where the TV series had been canceled, but there was still a small publication with the comic books going on.
Mm-hmm.
And you had Rio Blast, which was a complete and total like Mexican-American, walking stereotype, because he was walking around the comics eating chili peppers, and he had guns coming out of his chest. Still a cool-looking character. You had Skeetor, or Mosquito, or whatever like that, and he was like a large mosquito man, and you would actually put him up against a figure, and you'd push a button on his back, and you would actually see blood pumping through his chest cavity.
I remember that.
You had the elephant guy who shot the water out of his trunk, but it was a very powerful blast.
Do you remember the guy who, it looked like he was wearing like a freaking bullet on his head? He's like a little short guy.
Ram Man?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's Ram Man. There's a couple other like certain.
Well, there's another guy. There was another one.
Toys that were like it didn't seem like they were quite as popular. But
there was Extendar,
cool.
Which is like a knight, but like you would pull out his limbs and he would be like.
Oh, that's right. He also had like the giraffe neck.
Mm-hmm. No, that's Mechaneck. There's a knight where like you take his limbs and you could expand him. He became like 10 inches tall from like the usual 8 or something. And then his backstory was he was experimented on by the Horde, but he became good. There's another guy that experimented on by the Horde, he became bad. I guess it was his brother or something like that. But the whole toy was, it was like a weird beaked motorcycle-looking guy, but he had like wheels embedded into his friggin' like body. So you'd put him down, and you would actually little zoop thing like with the race car, like and you would like take off. It was like a combination motorcycle toy plus action figure.
Interesting. I don't remember that guy.
And then there was let's see, Fisto and Jitsu. They had like the spring-loaded hands.
That's right.
The battle armor He-Man, where if you hit him in the chest, it would get progressively worse. They also had one for Skeletor too. Web Store, the spider guy actually had a zip line that you could attach like across the room and zip him across the friggin' room with. Gosh, there's the Hasbro Fire Hazard. When they made the He-Man motion picture, they had the guy who was like a weird amalgamation between you said that word once like a couple days ago, and I can't stop using it now.
It's an awesome word, isn't it?
But it was a mixture between pretty much Strapjaw and Cobra Khan. It was like the snake guy, the only competent henchman Skeletor had in the movie, and he kills him first.
I can't
10
remember
minutes.
the name of that guy in the movie, but I thought it was hilarious because when we were watching the movies, me and my brothers, we always picked favorites, right? So my favorite bad guy was Blade because he was sort of like an evil He-Man, but not as powerful because he's not He-Man, obviously. And my brother's favorite character was the freaking lizard guy.
And the lizard guy, his action
figure... He even had the action figure that had the sparks.
Yeah. The action figure had a flint wheel on his back that when you hit the flint wheel with the spring-loaded button, flames, not flames, but sparks.
It was like a lighter.
Yeah, sparks would literally shoot out the toy's mouth.
And even made like a little buzzing sound.
And like these things came out pretty far.
Yeah, it was really cool.
You were actually, I don't know, I'm going to go play with He-Man in the barn, but I mean, if you actually were to use this guy by a tinderbox, you would burn the barn down. This thing shot sparks. You could literally, there was a skunk or whatever, who they actually mixed patchouli oil into the action figure's mold, so the action figure stunk like a skunk.
That's hilarious.
It was pretty funny. And I was like, it smelled like patchouli and plastic.
Oh, but going back to the movie where we picked favorites, I picked Blade, my brother picked the lizard guy, so I got to rub it in his face when freaking Skeletor killed him for no reason.
Yeah, the only guy, he actually gets a couple of good pot shots on He-Man. The only one actually doing his job, and Skeletor kills him instead of killing the idiot with the hook for a hand. I don't even think that guy got his own action figure. He was so lame.
With the annoying voice, too. Oh, my gosh.
We were outnumbered.
I couldn't stand that guy. Although, I loved it when freaking Evil-Lynn freaking brings the soldiers with her, and she has a little thing.
The Pasto TV or whatever.
Yeah, shows the entire fight. She just looks at him and goes, outnumbered, huh? Because she knows.
She knows, because she's Evil-Lynn.
Well, not only that, I thought it was pretty funny how, she actually kind of takes up the henchman side in the little debate with Skeletor.
Mainly because she wants him to owe her a favor.
And so Skeletor's basically like, okay, great, now you can lead them. And she's like, wait, what? I didn't say that. He's like, well, you shouldn't have spoke up then.
Good old Franklin Gilla.
So
there's not a great many things they got right in that movie. Skeletor's face when he was talking didn't work half the time, but he looked the part. Evil-Lynn looked nothing like the cartoon, but she looked the part. No one was going to confuse her for anybody else.
Yes. And she was also a hot Evil-Lynn.
I have no idea who the hell that Orko standing was, because you couldn't have Orko, but for some reason you have this walking troll monstrosity.
You mean Gwildor?
Gwildor. Oh my god, you're a song maker.
Yeah.
And then they had Courtney Cox looking like Courtney Cox, which is a plus.
Young Courtney Cox. Very good.
Cox. Dolph Lundgren as He-Man, but I mean, at the same rate, who else was going to play He-Man at the time?
Well, your only other option would have been Arnold Schwarzenegger, but, I'm not quite sure if he spoke English yet. I think this was in the same era as,
Hercules
1 and 2.
Or maybe,
Hercules in New York?
Yeah, where they actually had to overdub
everything he said.
Because no one could understand what the hell he was saying.
That's one of those movies I think is horribly good. Have you ever watched Hercules in New York?
It is so bad.
I find it awesome. Hilarious.
Is that also the one where he punches a bear into space?
I think so.
Yes. If not, there's another Hercules movie from the 80s where Hercules punches a bear into space.
But, I don't know. I saw Hercules in New York.
Me of a goddess.
Like, I don't know if it was just on TV one day. I can't imagine my dad renting it. But I remember watching it and just thinking it was hilarious.
Unintentionally hilarious. Oh my goodness.
Still, I can just imagine, Skeletor and He-Man getting drunk one day and just hanging out.
Did you ever? What's the deal with that Orko guy? Do you ever see his face? I saw it one Skeletor and it was terrifying. And he made him wear the hat. You know, you're the only one with a green tiger, and yet no one could figure out who you were.
I mean, even Skeletor, like, he has his own, like, evil battle cat. I can't remember what it was called.
Panther.
Because
it sounds like Panthro, but it's Panther.
But it's like, he has Panther. It's Panther. It doesn't transform. It's like, he's really the only other person with a giant, battle cat monster thing. And no one can tell that freaking Cringer and Battle Cat are the same thing.
I mean, that'd be different.
But Cringer's a coward.
Yeah.
And so is Prince Adam. He couldn't possibly be He-Man, even though he looks just like him.
They slightly improve on that a little bit with the newer cartoon, because they actually made Prince Adam like the shrimpish-looking teenager. But at the same rate, he also has the only green tiger on Eternia. You think there might be a little bit of,
I still think, like, when they're sitting there talking and He-Man's drunk, probably let's slip that he's actually Prince Adam.
Like, I knew the whole time. I knew this the whole time.
What do you mean you knew this the whole time? How come you never attacked me when I was Prince Adam?
Because then I'd be unemployed.
Well, that, and I just think it's hilarious watching you prance around in that pink shirt, trying to pretend you're not He-Man.
Did your daddy make you wear that? Your daddy's little pink princess?
I was just trying to be as un-He-Man-like as I could possibly be.
Well, you succeeded. How many times did you bang Tila? Oh, none.
You do know that that sword that you carry around isn't the one that she was looking for, right?
Well, the funny thing too is, in rare instance of updating the cartoon and having some of the characters' designs suffer, I happen to think that 80s Tila looked a lot better than 2000s Tila, because she had that little unitard. But for some reason, in the 80s, you couldn't have anyone punch anybody, you couldn't have anybody stab anybody. You had to have people bailing out of the helicopter before it exploded. But for some reason, when you had 80s Tila in her unitard, you got to have perfectly animated butt cheeks.
Yes. Well, speaking of weapons you weren't allowed to use, remember the Ninja Turtles? Only one who was ever actually allowed to use their weapons was freaking Donatello, because he has a stick.
It was a stick.
And freaking Michelangelo with his nunchucks, because nobody understands how nunchucks work.
And they would always have Michelangelo use his nunchucks in non-nunchuck ways, like wrap it around stuff and pull it away.
Yeah.
But those nunchucks are pretty much entirely too long for nunchucks.
Yeah, whereas...
Well,
freaking Leonardo could never stab anything. Oh my gosh.
In order to get around that whole thing is they had to take like the foot soldiers, which were pretty much like humans in the comics,
and they made them
turn them into evil robots, and that was the only way they can get away with things being sliced and diced.
Yeah.
But
they recorded.
Oh dear. But yeah, it was just the 80s, and it's the 80s and 90s, and it's like various like degrees of flexible morality.
Yeah.
Like, G.I. Joe, not as... First off, all the assault weapons were lasers for some reason.
That never killed anyone.
And also, remember the Centurions? Power extreme.
I remember that.
Okay, in the action figures, because they actually should be action figures, but you had Hacker, which was like half cyborg, half bald dumbass. And in the action figure, you actually have to wind his flail arm up, and he would go like, smash, and he would smash stuff, right? In the cartoon, he had a giant flail arm, spike ball arm, but it just shot laser beams out of the tip. Why not just have an arm cannon?
I guess that'd be too much like Guts.
Not true. But I don't think
they knew who Guts was.
I don't think Guts was even a Twiggling Quintero, whatever the hell his name is. Miura? I can't pronounce it.
I don't know. You'd think after all these years we would, but no, we can't. Sorry. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of funny how you'd have all these battles with freaking special forces guys and horrible terrorists, and nobody ever freaking gets killed.
And they're worse shots with their lasers than the A-Team are with assault rifles.
I think the only time you ever really saw someone get hurt was, I remember an episode where a shipwreck, hurt his leg because a statue fell on it while he was dodging something.
Or, gosh, what was it? Oh yeah, well, even Voltron. even Voltron, a major plot point in the Japanese version of Voltron is the whole reason the princess becomes the Blue Lion is because Sven dies. He doesn't get transported to a hospital planet. He dies. Because the Japanese are like, hey, you know what, that's part of life. We can have a character down the cartoons. It makes the storyline progress. And then later on, they try and bring Sven back. It's like, well, it's just, it's Sven, he's back. But I guess in the Japanese cartoon, uncensored, it was Sven's twin brother, which is kind of contrived. But Sven himself died. And it was just sort of a weird, like,
it's America. We can't have people die.
We can't have people dying on television and cartoons, only in live action.
Which I find hilarious because at the same time, before you had, G.I. Joe, where people are shooting at each other all day long and no one gets killed. In the Japanese side, you had Robotech, where everybody dies. The first episode, there's like half the squadron gets blown up. You're like, holy crap, what's happening here?
And yet that pop singer girlfriend never dies.
Oh,
no
good
matter
God,
how much you wanted her to.
Why can't you kill Min-Mei? Why can't we kill Min-Mei?
I will write a letter to the Japanese embassy begging them to kill her.
I mean, you had Rick Hunter. I mean, Rick Hunter was cool, but the guy who was like his older brother, like taught him everything he knows, was like amazing, and he gets killed like 5 episodes in. You're just like, what the heck?
And there was a short-lived, somewhat rip-off of Robotech on the Americans, I think, so like Exo Squad.
That was actually a good show. People died in that one too, though.
Did they really die?
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
That wasn't the 80s though. That was like late 90s.
Okay. Well, like the Swat Kats. Swat Kats had people dying in it too.
People died a lot in that. I mean, sometimes there wasn't as much overt death like in Robotech, but there'd be like, oh, and then everyone on this planet got slaughtered. Like, oh, well then, that's horrible.
Remember in the pilot episode of SWAT Kats, you actually see the farmer kind of trying to shoo away this giant walking amoeba thing, and in the silhouette, you actually see the amoeba thing pick up the farmer, eat him and a cow.
Oh dear.
I'm like, that was unheard of, because I'm raised off of, like, He-Man will punch a volcano over to block something, as opposed to like punching the guy making the volcano erupt.
Well, He-Man was also a lot like Superman in that he would go out of his way to make sure like nobody got killed.
That's true, but at the same rate, like,
so
there's plenty of times where He-Man could have just easily face punched Skeletor, not even had to kill him, but just give him a nice little solid face punch.
Well, still, like, it at least sort of makes sense why He-Man doesn't kill people, because it's sort of like, well, he's He-Man. I don't have to kill people. Whatever. Whereas
I think one of my favorite
in G.I. Joe, like, they were literally soldiers. They were like super special forces, like beyond Green Beret special forces. And Cobra is like evil terrorist organization.
They were ISIS, but with technology and the ability to actually read.
So it's like, these are literally factions who should be blowing each other up all the time.
And killing each other.
And nobody freaking dies, except for like by accident.
Or off screen.
Yeah.
I think as much as I liked the show, I don't think anyone died in Centurions either. And Centurions also fell into they kind of fell into the trap that a lot of the other shows did in an attempt to stay relevant and keep the toys coming. They introduced 2 more Centurions that had nothing to do with the Earth, Wind, Fire thing. Or not land, sea, air. They introduced the Demolitions Expert, which was this like guy with the blonde beard, and all of his suits were like things that blew stuff up. And then they had the walking and talking, the unfortunate Native American stereotype, who was like the master of infiltration and tracking, because we all know tracking robots is a bitch.
I don't remember Centurions as much. I remember Transformers. I remember I think it was a ripoff of Transformers, like GoBots.
GoBots.
But then, like, I guess Transformers like acquired it, so it kind of like became part of the Transformers world.
Did it really? I didn't know that.
I think so.
Transformers, to its credit, was the first, I think, of the beloved quote-unquote 80s shows that actually had a major death, and it was a death. It was Optimus Prime, I believe, in the movie. Optimus Prime straight up dies.
Yeah, because he's replaced with Rodimus Prime.
Yeah, Rodimus Prime, which
is
Rodimus Prime,
whatever,
because it sounds like a transforming penis. Rodimus Prime.
I don't know if the speaker is picking that up, but my cat is snoring, which I find hilarious.
Yep. Wow, I never heard a cat snore before. And then what else? There was not Thundar, that was a barbarian, but the one Brave Star. Bravestar was like, strength? That would be strength of a bear.
Speed of a cheetah.
But then
What is it? Did he have something of an eagle? Was that like eyesight of an eagle?
something like that. But then his sidekick, I mean, there's the horse sidekick, but then the other sidekick, the comic relief sidekick, okay, people give Snarf shit and Snarper shit, and I totally understand that. People give Orko shit and Cringer shit, I understand that. But this guy...
Orko was more useful than Snarf ever thought of being.
But this guy, he had this midget who just talk like this all the time, and like, gee, John, you're just oh God. It was just like imagine the Hulk attempting baby talk all the time.
That sounds annoying.
It was incredibly annoying. It
was
was
probably why I don't remember. It's just
it was even more annoying than the thing that only whistled in the freaking Silverhawk show.
Oh, you mean crap? What's his name? Just saw it the other day.
I don't know. He was the red guy.
Yeah, the copper one. Kid something. Something kid.
And the one thing that kind of bothered me about the, granted, suspension of disbelief here, but the Silverhawks, okay, I understand that their armor made them like space adaptable,
right?
But if you paid attention, most of them didn't have gloves on.
Well, they had like one arm, like forearm to hand down, that was like a regular hand, and then the rest of them, except for their face, was.
But they would make them
silver. They'd have a helmet thing that came on down over their face.
They would make it a point to put their helmet on before they went into space.
Right.
But for some reason, their hands were exposed.
Just one hand.
Just one hand.
But still.
That was still fake. He would still freeze off and die.
Yeah. Well, something that I wouldn't have remembered unless I hadn't seen like an episode like 2 days ago.
How'd you see this episode? Were you nostalgic cartoons?
Oh, I told you one of my buddies has
Matt Reese
like
had it?
No, not Matt Reese, different friend.
Sorry.
But anyways, has like literally all the cartoons that we used to watch as a kid as DVDs. That's how I know like most of them are like 2 or 3 seasons. And apparently in the last whatever period of time since I hung out with him last, he acquired Silverhawks in addition to all of the Thundercats ones.
Did he have Tiger Sharks at all?
I don't think so.
Because that one,
but
I never even got to see that, but later on Nostalgia Kicks, I saw stuff about it. And it looks so terrible, I have to try it out. Because it seems like it maybe only lasted 1 season, if that. Because it was sort of... Okay, we understand that there's a Thundercats.
Well, Thundercats did well. And Thundercats led to Silverhawks.
And the Silverhawks,
which was basically Thundercats in space.
But the Tiger Sharks were the Thundercats Silverhawks underwater.
Oh dear.
And it just... The chick's power, when she, like, sea-powered out, was I guess her head became like an octopus. Yeah, right?
That's horrible.
Somebody made that decision on a huge pile of cocaine because it was the 80s.
Yes.
Well, I think when I went to kindergarten, see, how old am I? I'm 34 currently.
Yes.
Kindergarten, I think, would have been 89 or 90.
Kindergarten?
Kindergarten.
How old are you when you're in kindergarten?
Oh, you know what? Maybe it was 86. Okay, no, I take it back. I wasn't in kindergarten. I was in 2nd or 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Because I remember my mom used to teach kindergarten. And when I came to her classroom on occasion, after school, I would see some of the kindergartners' lunch pails. And the kindergartners' lunch pails there were still some Silverhawk lunch pails in that crowd, I remember, which I thought was odd. And I think this was around the same time the Batman movie came out.
That came out in like 1989.
Okay. So if Tiger Sharks fits in the timeline I think it does, it may have actually been a very short-lived, like, early 90s cartoon.
I remember going to Batman the movie, and it was a big deal because it was like the first rated R movie my dad ever took me to.
Was it rated R?
Oh yeah.
Batman?
Yeah.
I thought it was PG-13.
Oh man, the first one was rated R.
Really?
It was. You remember how dark that movie was for the time?
My parents wouldn't let me watch it until I got it on like a VHS, like years after it came out.
I mean, everyone talks about how dark like the Christopher Nolan Batman is, or even if you've seen the Batman vs Superman, this one is pretty dark. But for the time when the 1989 Batman came out, the only other Batman that people had known about was it was like the 60s Batman show. So that was like super duper dark Batman.
You're right, because the Jack Nicholson Joker straight up kills a lot of people.
Well, not only that, but like up until the new Christopher Nolan movies, like that was the definitive Joker. People were going like, how the heck is Heath Ledger going to be able to stack up to Jack Nicholson? My goodness.
And you know what? And honestly, looking back at it, I was impressed when I was a kid, but Jack Nicholson just played Jack Nicholson in clown makeup.
True. But Jack Nicholson can also be terrifying, so it works.
That is very true.
You know, but that's the
and
thing.
they spent a good portion of money trying to save money on makeup by having Jack Nicholson be scarred, put the clown makeup on, but then go back out in the public wearing regular makeup over clown makeup and vandalize art pieces.
Yes.
That was kind of silly.
And it's still funny, though. But again, it's
Vicky
like...
Vale was still hot.
Yes. I went and saw a different movie just because it had Kim Basinger in it, because Kim Basinger was freaking Vicky Vale. And that movie is called I Dreamed of Africa. Don't ever see that movie.
Dear.
It is the worst movie ever. It takes place over the course of like 50 or 60 years of this woman's life, and you literally feel like you've spent every year in that theater when you come out.
There was a movie.
I'm telling you, don't ever see that movie.
There was a movie I wanted to watch. No,
the chick says, "Hey, let's go watch this movie." Don't do it.
I think it was called Full Disclosure or something. I don't know. I think that might be the Michael Craig movie. But there was another movie. I want to say Disclosure was in the title, but I was trying to find out which, because every of those blonde bombshell starlets in the 80s had a gratuitous nude scene at some point, and I know she had one, but it wasn't the movies I tried watching as I was thinking. I also wound up watching so many times looking for weird nude scenes. Cool World. But by the time Cool World came out, Basinger, the years hadn't been very kind to her. I mean, I wouldn't say I'd kick her out of bed for eating crackers, but at the same rate, the cartoon version of Kim Basinger in the movie Cool World, I happen to think was hotter than the actual Kim Basinger at the time.
Yeah.
And then there was, okay. I'm trying to think here too. Weird. And then they had, like, Glenn Close with gratuitous nude scenes. And at the same rate, like, Glenn Close kind of looks the same as she does now. It wasn't like all that wonderful. I mean, it was kind of graphic, and then, like, she boiled the guy's rabbit and all that fun stuff. Sharon Stone, I mean, she pretty much did nude scenes until she was too old to do nude scenes, and she still did Basic Instinct too.
She kept doing them until people were like, "Please stop doing the nude scenes."
Do you think there's a person on this planet who ain't seen your vagina?
Well, if there is, we have to stop it now. Quickly, put the camera. No, it's all right.
I mean, how many times in how many movies, even like rated G movies or rated PG movies, like parodies, was the whole shtick with uncrossing the legs in the police room copied and made fun of ad nauseum?
Exactly.
But yes, so we've covered from He-Man to Sharon Stone's hoo-ha. A very good transgression, I believe.
Had to get there eventually.
Had to get there. Everyone does.
Which is why it no longer needs to be on film.
80s cartoons, how you've ruined me. No, actually, I happen to... Nowadays, cartoons have no morals. Now they're unapologetic toy commercials. At least in the 80s, they were unapologetic toy commercials, but they feigned having some sort of morals. There was...
Well, usually they didn't feign having morals. They actually did have morals.
There was Orko. There was Orko at the end of the He-Man episodes. Today we learned about teamwork. Or G.I. Joe, like
G.I. Joe literally had PSAs at the end. It was like,
more you know.
Stay away from guns, kids.
Knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe.
Thundercats, even. And the one thing I kind of thought was cool is in the remake of the He-Man cartoon in the 2000s, there was a couple throwbacks where they would do the PSAs at the end of them. But do you remember this? I totally forgot about the bastard middle child of He-Man. There was the 80s cartoon. There was the one in the 2000s, but there was a short-lived He-Man cartoon in the 90s that was abhorrent.
Skeletor talked like this.
Isn't that the one where they gave Skeletor like some weird red helmet and all sorts of weird stuff?
Skeletor talked like this, and it was not Skeletor talk sounding.
And He-Man had both He-Man and Prince Adam had 3 ponytails. Weird.
I don't remember that. Probably for good reason.
Yes. Yes, it was odd, even as a kid, and I was like wanting to like it because, oh my god, they brought He-Man back. It was awful.
One thing that I do find funny, like if you ever, like as a kid, when you listen to these things, the dialogue sounds amazing. In your memory, it sounds amazing. But if you actually go back and watch the episodes, the dialogue is horrendous.
Well, what's funny is how some of these things have aged. And I remember when I was a kid, being a kid, I always thought the Thundercats had the animation edge over He-Man. But by the trials of time and going through it and looking back at the cartoons now, the Thundercats had an amazing intro.
Oh yeah.
But and then the animation was amazing because that was like one of the first tastes of Japanese animation I got as a kid was the opening to the Thundercats cartoon, because that was, if it wasn't Japanese animation, it was totally like ripped off from it. But then the cartoon itself, nothing. The action sequences were kind of drab. He-Man, it never tried to make the pretense of being like, supremely animated. So they use a lot of the same animations over and over again.
Right.
But I think the actual old He-Man cartoon was stood the test of time better than the Thundercats did. Now, in a stark contrast, the attempted reboot, which I happen to like, of the He-Man cartoon in the 2000s, didn't do so well. And everyone I've ever shown it to, as even people not fans, absolutely loved the Thundercats reboot that was on Cartoon Network. It was sort of like mixing Conan the Barbarian with Avatar with Thundercats. It was amazing. But that was back when Cartoon Network, I think, had that scandal where they hid the light brights like the Moonanites all over Atlanta. Some idiot out there thought they were bombs, called in the FBI, and then the president had to step down. And this new tool took over and pretty much turned Cartoon Network into the anything but Cartoon Network.
Yeah. I just remember, like, I never really had a problem with the animation. Even when I watch the cartoons nowadays, the animation doesn't bother me. I still like it. But listening to the dialogue is freaking hilarious.
Some of the dialogue is just
because
terrible.
I always thought, like, okay, Lion-O has this cool voice, and he's like, I'm Lion-O, Lord of the Thundercats. And then you have, like, Tigra, who I always thought, again, sounded pretty cool at the time. Like, hey, I'm Tigra, what's up, guys? But you listen to him talk, and he's like, but Lion-O, what can we possibly do to prevent it? It's like,
and the only one with the soul.
It's like the only one who actually still, like, really sounds cool is kind of Lion-O.
Panthro.
And Panthro.
Because Panthro was just the black guy. He wasn't black, but he was the black guy.
And Chitara talked like this, which
but
was all right.
How dare you should talk? Never do.
And it was only all right because she was hot for a cat lady.
Those cat ladies, it turns out, are kind of hot.
But yeah.
Better than dog ladies.
Listening to the dialogue, like, sometimes gives me a headache. Like, how could I have listened to this? Well,
it's funny, a lot of those voice actors were starting out back then. Like, Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, got her start as a extra on the Smurfs, like Village Number 4, and then later on became more prominent as one of the Snorks.
Oh. I remember the Snorks. That was a funny show. Ooh, I have a little bit of trivia from you that I got from Cracked, so high five to them.
Cracked.com. Shameless plug.
Do you know who did the freaking voice of Panthro?
Who?
It was the grandpa from the Cosbys. Grandpa
Really?
Huxtable.
Really?
Grandpa Huxtable was the freaking voice of Panthro.
That's like freaking Will Smith's uncle being the voice of Shredder.
Yeah, and apparently it's the same Cracked article where I found that out too. And apparently, the guy who plays Grandpa Huxtable and Panthro has no concept what the show was about, because someone did an interview where they're like, well, how do you do that? How do you, like, do the dialogue and make it seem normal? He's like, oh, I just pretend I'm talking to my cats at home. What in the world are you dealing with at home? You think you and your cats are, like, fighting against Mum-Ra, the ever-living.
Oh, goodness. No, I don't blame a lot of people for not remembering the 80s. Like I said, so many cartoons were going. You remember, there was actually a cartoon based off of the Rubik's Cube.
Seriously?
Rubik, the Amazing Cube.
I, again, don't remember that.
No. Then there was like a couple of short-lived ones that should have gone along longer. There was the Inhumanoids, and then there was the Inhumanoids, and then there was the Luminaries.
There was, I don't remember the show, because obviously it had a show, it's the 80s, but they had, the premise was there were dinosaurs, Dino Riders. They had to have a show.
They did. The show was amazing.
I don't remember the show, but I remember.
Oh no, the brain box!
But you know what? I had that effing freaking T-Rex with the freaking lasers on it.
Everybody did.
That thing was
I love
awesome.
the T-Rex.
That thing was cool.
And then there was the Diplodocus on the other side with the friggin' like what do you call it? The
Yeah, it had like
Turrets.
side guns.
turrets.
It
Yeah.
had that too. Because that was awesome.
No, it was actually Tycho. Tycho, the guys that brought us like Duplos and Mega Blocks or whatever. They're the ones that pioneered. Really got. Actually, they made the Dino Riders, and it actually started a whole resurgence in like people wanting to get dinosaurs to find out about them. Like I think Stephen Jay Gould on one of them, one of the old shows I was watching about dinosaurs, actually said, yeah, these toys they were kind of winding down for a little bit, and then these toys brought like a whole like resurgence back. And there was actually things that did this back in the day. Oh my gosh!
Did they have lasers? No, but they could still bite your head off.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They had retractable claws, and then that obviously when Jurassic Park came out, the dinosaurs were sort of sealed in pop culture, like history.
You know what else had toys that you wouldn't necessarily expect, which shows you how awesome the like late '80s, early '90s were? Do you remember the movie Willow?
Yes.
Willow had its whole own line of toys.
Well, in retrospect, it makes sense because it was a LucasArts movie, and we all know George Lucas and how easy, how we actually make merchandise rights.
Me and my brothers,
Right.
we had every single one of them.
I only remember. I remember this.
They had they weren't necessarily like action figures that you could like move the arms, but they were more like really high quality army men, like they're in poses. But they also had certain ones who like they have a Mad Mardigan, they had a General Kale, they had the general on the good side, the blonde dude with the beard, who was pretty cool. They had them. They had specific ones that were on a horse, and so they had like the horseman ones.
Well, I remember. Actually, I think of all the fast food chains, Wendy's had the Willow rights at that time, and Wendy's had these cups where if you filled them with cold liquid or hot liquid, scenes from the movie would appear.
That's cool.
And I remember where they go into the forest and they talk to that one glowy lady.
Yeah.
So it'd be a scene on the cup, and when you fill it full of ice water, the glowy lady in really bad, quality, temperature, whatever paint or what plastic would show up, in the scene. But after you one or two glasses of cold water, she became permanently stuck, regardless of what was in the cup. It was an interesting technology at the time.
I remember in Willow, like the good witch, whatever the heck her name was. She keeps talking to Widow, turn me into my beautiful human form. And then he finally does, like, oh crap, she's old. And he's like, I'm sorry. She's like, no, it's alright. I guess I'm actually this old. I've been a bird for a long time.
So, well, that is about the 50-minute mark. So we're going to wind this down. I want to say thank you again to the finisher for this very interesting commentary and trip down memory lane with awesome toys. I'd like to thank Catalyst Rex, who is here snoring. And this is Doc Hartree signing off. Enjoy yourselves. Till next time.